The quarantine glasshouse, he swore, was empty. The calendar square arrived at 6:02 p.m., tidy as a plant label. Benefactors, soiree, City Botanic Conservatory, late. 2 minutes later, Aaron texted, "Don't wait up." Horticulture asked me to peek at a misting fault in the quarantine glasshouse after speeches. Proud of me. Read he spends the heart when the rest of the sentence wants diplomatic immunity. I turned the soup to the kind of simmer that calls itself maturity and looked toward the conservatory's 3 domes. At dusk, the glass ribs glow like something vertebrate and generous. You can almost hear the palms practicing applause. The square on my phone pulsed once and then behaved. I rinsed an already clean spoon because sometimes unnecessary is the only honest verb available. At 6:24, my phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize and a message that recognized me anyway. If the soiree in the Palm Court, why did he just badge the North Yard and cut to quarantine? Service gate at the herbarium dock. Reader hates witnesses, cover it and lean. I can stall sweep 2 minutes. Signed with a single letter, R, as if the alphabet had leaned on a hose reel and promised not to hiss. Ramai runs nights at the conservatory with the calm of a man who convinces humid air to behave. He and Aaron trade competence in a dialect of censors, donors, and leaves that reinvent their reasons. He and I have shared 2 cigarettes by the compost steam where the city exhales. Once we laughed so hard a motion light tried to learn timing. We have not touched. I remember not touching more clearly than most men remember vows. "Why tell me?" I wrote. "Because your calendar is polite and my badge logs aren't," he sent back. Because he looked up before he swiped. People only look up there when they want oxygen. Because empty is keep out the way champagne is hydration. The herbarium dock wore the smell of paper and rain. The gate's red eye forgave my palm after one skeptical blink. Inside, the path curled between propagation benches and a wall of shade cloth that made night of the evening. Quarantine sat apart like a rumor with a lock. Low glass, white-painted framing. A small vestibule that likes hand sanitizer. The door yielded the way good doors do, with a sense that it could have said no and decided to be kind. Quarantine is a room that keeps its promises in humidity. 2 aisles, benches mid-height, every pot tagged as if names could prevent betrayal. Fog nozzles stitched the air into a gentle shirt. Fans hummed a tune that means the machine loves you but also itself. At the far bench, jacket off and shirt open, one button past credible, tie folded into his pocket like a plausible denial, stood Aaron. Opposite him leaned Calder Vane, developer, board vice chair, a roomer with greenhouses on his roof and a smile he rents to cameras. Calder rested 2 fingers on a mist manifold as if water owed him interest. His other hand hovered near Aaron's wrist without landing, because proximity photographs better than contact when your brand buys purity and invoices discretion. "Empty looks irrigated," I said. Aaron turned. For a beat, truth used his face like glass before it reflects. Then the gala version arrived, posture corrected, breath corrected, patience practiced. "Nate," he said, how did?" "Ramai prefers nouns," I said. "I prefer doors." Calder smiled in the tone of stewardship. "We were reviewing a nozzle fault," he said. "Patrons like to feel the air loves the plants on purpose." "I prefer love that doesn't need a photographer," I said. Aaron took 1 step toward me and let the wet floor keep the second. "We were listening for a clog," he said. He wanted to hear the room without speeches. "Sound is persuasive," Calder said, opening both hands like tasteful parentheses. 2 minutes. The sweep is punctual, my driver is theatrical. He drifted along the bench, pausing at a small forest of quarantine citrus. As he passed, 2 fingers tapped Aaron's shoulder, punctuation, not possession. Condensation traced my collarbone like a decision I was going to make anyway. Aaron watched me the way men watch weather when they hope thunder will practice elsewhere. I was going to text you, he said, lower now, using the register he keeps for mornings and the soft under my jaw. After, I wanted to know I could leave this room without letting it rename me. You wanted to be caught, I said, not punished, caught. He let out a breath that knew how to become fog. Yes. There is a damp at which grammar resigns. I crossed the aisle and put my mouth on his because glass deserves honesty and leaves deserve witnesses. He kissed back with the relief of a man who has been paying interest on restraint, compounded under grow lights and polite applause. He tasted like gala bourbon and clean humidity. The air lifted at the edges, pleased to be included. My thumb found the hinge of his jaw and pressed. He made the small, involuntary sound I keep receipts for. His palm slid under my shirt and settled flat between my shoulder blades like a promise that refuses notarization. We didn't undress. The room felt domestic to secrets but not reckless. Cameras may be gentle and still remember. He broke the kiss first because he knows the exact second heat applies for narrative. He rested his forehead against mine. A fog burst stitched a quieter seam. I didn't kiss him, he said. I wanted to want to. I texted Remai. You did, I said. He prefers oxygen to salvage. From the citrus, Calder tilted his head with the tidy curiosity of a man who thinks plants have brand loyalty. He didn't approach. The room practiced indifference, which is a kind of kindness in a place that catalogs diseases. Come home, Aaron said. After I thanked the person who hears nozzles click from a parking lot, I said. Ramai waited in the vestibule with a lanyard looped over 2 fingers and the kind of stillness that convinces fans to keep being fans. He didn't smile. He also didn't make mercy expensive. Sweep hits quarantine in 90, he said. If you don't want to explain yourselves to a flashlight that knows your shoes, cut through propagation, past the cold frames, out the side gate. The side cam believes every flat is a flat. You sent the message, I said. I opened a door, he said. You two remembered how to walk. Propagation smelled like damp perlite and new ambition. Trays of seedlings watched us without judgment. Domes collected our reflections like they were on good terms with us. The side gate let us into ordinary air and the night that belongs to things without labels. We took the sidewalk over the front path because front paths write captions. At home, the soup forgave me for mistaking patience for character. We ate standing, like mammals who know where the bowls live. He told me Calder had been sculpting a compliment into a proposition for weeks, and he had helped because selection feels like love when usefulness empties your pockets. I told him Ramai had texted because some people choose air over alibi. He didn't ask whether Ramai and I had ever been a worse idea. I didn't say how a blue indicator led turns, Ramai's mouth, into punctuation that finally learns its job. We didn't fight. There wasn't theater left to sell. Later, in bed, we left a sliver of cool like a reservation and then let it surrender because the night had already billed us for restraint. He kissed me with the steadiness I trust more than policy. I put my mouth where his jaw goes humble and told it a morning. It was heat without spectacle. The building minded its radiators. Across the park, the domes practiced forgetting names and we assisted. Morning behaved. Coffee made its case. Sunlight laid rectangles on the table like tidy plots in a garden nobody has to own. The calendar square for tonight stayed blank, which in this city is the kink we can afford. Aaron tied a tie over a throat I intend to retire with patience and kissed me like the door already knew our names. He left to explain stewardship to a breakfast that confuses glass with virtue. At 9:11, a text arrived from a number saved as one letter. No quarantine cam saw anything but leaves. I looped a Fogger diagnostic for 20. Consider it training. I sent, you're very proud of your training. He replied, I'm proud of your exit. No punctuation correct. By noon, a culture blog posted Calder beneath the bromeliad arch with a caption about legacy ecosystems. I scrolled past. It wasn't our room. At 1:19, Aaron texted a picture of our kitchen plant basking in a responsible square of sun. Room exists, he wrote. The week pretended to be a watering schedule you could trust. Calder sent a revised pledge with fewer adjectives and more commas. Aaron read to the part where the commas started to behave like a harness and set it face down. He pressed his forehead to my temple for a quiet 7 count. The air resumed being air. 2 nights later, the conservatory hosted Night in the Glass. Honest wristbands, real families, kids learning that mist can be kind and light can be warm without taking anything. We went together, because sometimes the correct grammar is plural. Ramai nodded once from behind the shade cloth like an usher who had already chosen a side. Calder shook Aaron's hand while a photographer taught Du how to glow. A reporter asked about legacy. Aaron pointed to a gardener kneeling to show a child how to repot without scolding the roots and said, legacy is what keeps rooms gentle. And the reporter wrote it down like she'd earned a truth. On the way home, we cut across the lawn where the fountains rehearse patience and the long grass pretends to be ocean. Aaron slid 2 fingers into my back pocket in the way that says not mine but here, and the night did the decent thing and looked away. We burned the bread and ate it anyway. At the bedroom door, he kissed me the way good sentences land, without ornament, unavoidable. I answered as if verbs were the last honest currency. It did not stay tidy. It never does here. An anonymous account posted a grainy still, 2 silhouettes in a fogged room, one hand too near to be polite. The caption invented entanglement, the comments rented outrage and billed by the breath. I set my phone face down beside the plant and watched the plant win. Aaron texted a different image. The potting shed at noon. Ramai showing a teen volunteer how to wash a leaf without bruising while a humidity graph confessed contentment. Our version works for a living, he wrote. Sunday arrived with rain that had read the manual. Ramai texted, glass house is quiet. Want a stool where nobody sells you a seat? We went. He poured us paper cups of coffee that tasted like competence and showed us which sensor lies first, why you never trust a door that apologizes, and the faint change in fan pitch that means a bearing is going to tell the truth. He didn't flirt with anything, not even the truth. He stood with his hands in his jacket pockets and told us a joke about rich men who think sunlight is a metaphor. I liked him better for refusing to be necessary when he didn't need to be. Midweek, the foundation staged a press moment to announce paid internships in horticulture. Aaron spoke first, about bolts and volunteers and the joy of maintenance, the only speech that ages correctly. Calder promised to help the city meet its green on time, a sentence that managed to spend nothing and still collect applause. After, he shook Aaron's hand and then looked at me with the careful respect of a man evaluating whether he cannot purchase. You're both very good at exits, he said. Practice, I said. He laughed because it was the only honest thing left on his card. A columnist with an adjective habit implied Aaron's access came courtesy of private tour. The piece included a photo of glass that could have been any glass and a paragraph that could have been any rumor. The comments did their choreography. I took the plant to the sink and let water talk to its roots like a promise we could keep. That night, we turned our phones face down and cooked like people who still believe heat tells the truth. On a wet Thursday, Ramai sent a single word, weather, and we met him by the misting tank where rain and plumbing negotiate. He showed us which drain floods first, where to stand when lightning auditions near steel frames, and how to hear the slight hesitation that means a pump will miss its cue without kindness. He didn't ask about the photo. We didn't say his name out loud. 3 people wide beneath the breathing skin of glass, we let the storm remove adjectives we didn't need. Life kept refusing to be purchased. Calder kept sending commas that wanted homes. Aaron kept returning them with better ones. The plant kept inventing a shade of green that turns vanity domestic. We kept our calendar squares blank on purpose, because blanks are the only promises rooms respect. Sometimes, near midnight, we walk the perimeter path and look in at the domes. From outside, you can't see the quarantine benches or the small, decent posture of a man who teaches heavy air to be gentle. You can only see a courteous glow pretending it doesn't belong to anyone. That's as it should be. We circle the block and go home without letting the building perform at us. He takes my wrist like a man reteaching himself the grammar of doors. I think about the glass house and the 2 minutes that were enough, about how some rooms try to own you and others teach you to leave correctly. Sometimes I think about Calder paused by the manifold like a man who wants to buy air and discovering it doesn't invoice. Sometimes I think about Remai's line, "I opened a door," and how it's the only biography I want for this version of us. Tonight's square is empty. We're leaving it that way. Let the conservatory keep its speeches and the city its applause. We have the side gate, a plant we refuse to let die, and the quiet grammar of a decision that knows where it belongs. Not in the rumor, not in the photo, but in the mouth that learned to say come home and mean it. If we get caught again, let it be by each other. The rest of the world can rehearse wonder. We'll be in the room that doesn't need it, counting breaths until they sound like fans settling into kindness, and a morning we can afford, and calling that enough.